And we are live. A very, very warm welcome, everyone. To those of you that are joining us on LinkedIn today, thank you for joining us. We are talking about the art of gifting, and I'm joined today by three of our wonderful members, Rebecca, Orsa, and Gabriella. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. I know that you are all very busy having product-based businesses in the run-up to Christmas, but all working in slightly different fields. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation today. And I'm very grateful for you sharing this time with us. I would like to start by giving each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves and your businesses in your own words. So Rebecca, can I start with you, please?
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. So happy to be here again. I love the women's chapter, as you know. My name is Rebecca Rose. I'm the creative director for To the Fairest, which is a UK-based fine fragrance company. We make eau de parfum, satin body oils, and scented candles.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Gabriella, can I go to you?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriella Turner, and I have a jewellery company called Annellino Fine Jewellery, where I work with a fifth-generation goldsmith in Italy. The workshop's over 150 years old, and we make 18-karat gold pieces. And I'm based here in London.
Fantastic. Thank you. Vanessa, over to you.
Hi, Michelle, and hi, Rebecca and Gabriella. Nice to be here with all of you. I'm also Elvebakk. I'm co-founder of Natural Nuance. We're an accessories and sort of handbags and smaller items company. We are a sustainable company. We use only natural materials. And we've been active since 2017. We're based in Zurich and in Austria, in Vienna.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm really interested to know, because all of you have different products that can either be gifted or that people can buy for themselves, which hopefully there are some people that are thinking about that this year and treating themselves and a little bit of me time or self-love and self-care. But have you noticed in your respective industries any kind of changes in the way that people are buying gifts, or the kinds of, what sort of feedback are you getting from your clients and your respective audiences? Rebecca, can I ask you to start?
Sure. Well, I think, it remains that people are looking for uniqueness and value, particularly at this time of year. And I think what that means for us is we're seeing more and more bundles in terms of gifting. So instead of buying just, a bottle of perfume, maybe a scented candle, we do a bundle offer where for a discount you get a combination of different products. That seems to be quite popular. It also has free gift wrap. I think any little added extras that as a brand you can offer your customer mean more than, a lot more than usual at this time of year.
So less about price point really, and more about kind of the whole experience and what they'll be able to offer as the gift.
I think so. And especially at this time of year, we're in the middle of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the tsunami of emails and offers, newsletters, it can feel quite overwhelming, and also kind of make the gifting experience feel a little bit more hollow. I don't know. We do definitely discount, and we do special offers throughout the year, but we choose not to do so this weekend just because we don't want to get lost in the melee of all of those newsletters bombarding you.
Well, and I think it's really interesting, actually, and maybe also, Gabriella, you can contribute to this too. But as the women's chapter, we champion women-led brands, and we really want to encourage our community and those beyond it to use their purchasing power to support women-led business. But we don't do anything over Black Friday, and we tend to not kind of make a big deal about it because of that, because I think it creates this mindset that everybody sort of waits for a certain time period to do their shopping, and gifting, but also the beautiful products that you have are for all year round, and not just for that one weekend where everybody's waiting to do all of their shopping. And I know we're all guilty of it because it's very tempting. But like Gabriella, what have you made of Black Friday, and how have you dealt with that? Because you're a fine jewelry business, which must be quite difficult for you to keep up with promotion.
So, to be honest with you, I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the products that I have. they are actually for all year round. So, and my clients tend to come to me if they're buying. Obviously, Christmas is a busy period, but if especially from a fine jewellery point of view, you're buying it to commemorate something, you're buying it because you want to give something in memory of something, whatever it may be, and that is not necessarily in line with the calendar. It's not necessarily in line with something like Black Friday or Cyber Monday. So we don't, to be honest, we don't do anything. I've never thought of doing anything because it's for me, my pieces, they're so much more than putting a sale price on them. And also, like you say, like Rebecca says, you wake up in the morning and then you have at least 25 emails of just going down. And I think I'm not willing to try and compete with that. And two, it's just not something that I would think of doing.
Also, what's your perspective on that? And is it different in your markets? Because you sell into the UK, but you have European markets as well. What's the kind of feeling around Black Friday and discounting?
Yes, so Black Friday is definitely here also on the continent. We have decided not to participate at all, and it's actually really a principle because this kind of practices make our lives difficult as smaller participants in the market. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that we want to deliver value to our clients. We want to make them happy. We want to make people appreciate what they just bought. And so we also are a little bit more in the line with what Rebecca said, in maybe offering something in addition, offering a Christmas package. We're not necessarily doing it online, but we have here in Zurich, for example, we're working with a small shop, and there, you can get a little package with maybe one bag and some smaller items, and that's just really to add value. And I think this is the angle we're taking. We're adding value. It's about joy. It's about lots of things, right? So it's not about price in the end. Of course, people will buy what they can buy. But it has to be the value that comes first. So this is the take we have on that.
And in terms of, Gabriella, maybe you can shed some light here. Fine jewelry. Have you noticed any changes in the way people are buying? I guess post, COVID, like coming out of that period now. Has it? Because we all know that the pandemic had an impact on the way people spent their money and what they chose to spend their money on. But how is that translated for you, and what is it looking like now?
I think it's very interesting because before, I think the pandemic made people slow down. And I think it also made, for majority of people, a lot of people, then reflect on what they were actually buying, because you wouldn't necessarily anymore be able to get next day delivery or things like this. And I've certainly found that clients are coming to me and they understand that pieces take time to make, and they're more willing to wait, which is fantastic, because it means that you can share the journey with them. It isn't just a transactional thing. I obviously have stock pieces, which are more classic pieces of jewellery, diamond earrings, pearls, whatever it may be, something like that. But I've noticed that definitely throughout the last 2 years, people have come to me specifically for bespoke pieces. And because we hand cut the majority of our stones in-house, it really means that we can make something very, very special for them. In many cases, on the same price level as something which would be a stock piece. And it's, I think, talking about gifting, it is obviously about the end product, obviously, but it's also, I think, about the experience and as Rebecca mentioned, uniqueness of a piece. And there's something quite wonderful about being able to, whether it's Christmas, whether it's to celebrate the birth of a baby, there's something quite nice to be able to say, this is what I've given you, this is what I'm giving you, but also these are all the photos of it being made, and this is my goldsmith Giuseppe, this is him cutting the stone. and it just adds something else. And it, especially from, and I imagine European point of view, it's how it used to be. You used to have your clothes made, you used to have your shoes made, you used to go to jewellery shops, and things would be made for you, and then in turn they can then be passed down, which I think is a really fantastic thing.
Well, and I think that's kind of it's endorsing that legacy element of gifting, right? And I think, and also, can I ask you to tell us a little bit about your circular model, because that is also a legacy model, isn't it? Where you're utilizing materials and reusing them and building things that last.
Yes. It's my favorite topic. No, our take on sustainability in general is that we say it has to start in the design phase. So when you design a piece, think about what happens at the end of a hopefully very long life. And although our pieces are made to last, our thought goes a bit beyond that. So especially our third collection, the Philosophy Shopper collection, it's actually just made out of 2 seams. So yes, the whole idea there is that we can reuse as much as possible for future generations. It's maybe less the legacy aspect of passing it from mother to daughter, which could also be possible, or when we go into the male segment from but it's more a legacy also of our planet, right? It's like, let's think about tomorrow. So yes.
No, I love that. Thank you. And that all, it's part of mindful purchasing, isn't it? I mean, and Rebecca, I know that you have a very similar ethos in terms of your products, that there's so much thought that goes into, how these scents are developed and all of the different inspirations and where they come from. It adds all of these layers to what people are ultimately buying from you, the storytelling part of that, but also all the thought and mindfulness that goes into it, whether it be the design of one of your pieces also, or one of yours, Gabriella, and what the translation of what people want, but also yours, Rebecca, in terms of how a scent is developed and what that evokes in a person or the person that buys it. Rebecca, I'd like to ask you, because you've just come back from the Daylesford Fair, and I would love to kind of get your feedback on what that experience was like. Maybe for those that might not know what it is, and what you were hearing from people while you were there from a gifting perspective.
Sure. So this was in early November, and it was in the Cotswolds. It's called the Cotswolds Christmas Fair. It's at Daylesford Organic Farm, and we hadn't been before, so I took the brand there. We had a stand. It's a 3.5-day long fair, and it's huge. It's 3 enormous marquees with 200 brands in there, but very carefully curated, I would say. There's a really good selection, everything from fashion, lifestyle, homewares, all the way through to food. You hear these stories beforehand, like some people go there to do their entire Christmas shopping, other people go there just to browse. So I didn't really know what to expect, but it was great. It was really interesting. I mean, I'm not convinced yet that fragrance perhaps is the best match for fair environments like that, simply because fragrance is so rarely an impulse purchase. It's something that you have to think about, and whether or not it suits you, go away, contemplation, reflection, that sort of thing. But the way that we tried to make that work for us is that we were giving out samples. So we have little 2 ml samples, and interestingly, we'd have a conversation, then take away a sample, and the post-sales events from that region actually been quite high. And so I'm thinking that people were able to kind of take this home with them and decide whether or not they really liked it, or whether their sister might like it, something like that. So I mean, the main problem, I think, with somewhere like Daylesford is everything is so beautiful, and you sort of want to buy a little bit of something from every stand, that you have to be really mindful of what you're spending. But it is great, and if anyone lives locally and they haven't been, I definitely recommend it.
Thank you. Thanks. It's really interesting. And Gabriella, in terms of gifting, what trends are you seeing in the jewelry industry? I mean, what are people coming to you and asking for?
To be honest, a wide variety of things. I think the general trend throughout it is obviously I specialize in 18 karat gold jewelry, whether that's white gold, rose gold, or yellow gold, and we also work with platinum as well. So I've noticed that actually a younger demographic are looking to me to make pieces for, mainly it's for partners or for themselves. So I think although pieces like gold-plated silver are still popular in terms from a fashion point of view, but I do think that actually a lot more people, speaking to others in the industry, people are looking towards buying 18 karat gold, 14 karat gold, just for the longevity of it, and holding from a value point of view as well, which I think is quite interesting. So from that respect, then in turn is people are waiting instead of an impulse buy. They're waiting. They've seen something that they may like and saving up, which I think is really fantastic because it happens a lot in Italy, but I hadn't really experienced it that much over here, which is, and it's also it's a patience thing as well. I think you always appreciate something if you buy something, for example, whether it's Black Friday or on this, you get an instant gratification, but then that goes. Whereas actually, if you've put something away for however many months and then you come in, I've always found anyway that you just you appreciate it a lot more, and you just, yeah, whenever you see it, it reminds you of that time. So I have noticed that.
That's really interesting, and interesting that you speak about the kind of Italian focus, and that's something that's quite common there, that people would wait and enjoy the process, I guess, because that is part of it. The anticipation of knowing that ultimately you will be able to secure the piece that you want because you're putting money aside for it, or that you know that it's in the making.
Yeah.
Also, can I ask you, because you operate on the continent, what are your observations around cultural differences when it comes to gifting?
I can start with myself. I'm Swedish, married to an Italian, so it's our wedding was interesting from that perspective. I think, of course, it's not just country-wise; it's also family-wise traditions that you have. But I think there is a real difference in, for example, Italy. Our relatives there, the packaging is always so beautiful. It's just really an experience to open the packages. And if you look at Sweden, we may be a bit more minimalistic. It covers everything, the paper, but it's maybe not so thought out in that sense. And I think that reflects our culture a little bit as well. In the Nordics, it's a very, generally said, a minimalistic style that we have, and I think if you translate that to what you spend for gifts, I think there is a certain tradition and certain values that you have there. So maybe in some countries, like in the Nordics, for Christmas, people would make more gifts, smaller gifts, but more of them. And in other countries, it's one gift and it costs a bit more. This is what I've seen here. So we try to keep all sorts of possibilities. I mean, we have a small brand. We have a small brand assortment, but we also have smaller pieces that people can buy if they want to spend less than 100, for example. So,
yeah. It's really interesting that you would say that, actually, because I think this whole idea, and that less is more really appeals to me. But I think culturally, I mean, obviously I'm South African, and we never did things where you have a stocking filled with wrapped gifts. And it's taken me a while, and I still don't do this for my own children, where you have loads of little gifts that are wrapped, and it's all largely stuff that probably lands up on landfill. And I just really struggle with that, because I would much rather have what I would have spent all those things and have a more special gift. So it's quite interesting, and I hadn't really thought about that those things are definitely cultural. From one place to the next, the gifting traditions would be different, and not necessarily about how much you get, but maybe whether or not it's more of an investment piece or a special gift. So thank you for raising that. And I suppose from you, all of you, as sellers, that you would need to think about that, how you would tap into your different markets and what sort of gifting practices they have. Like Gabriella, you were saying, you do have some stock pieces that people can purchase, but that equally, if someone is wanting to buy, that special piece that's crafted just for them, and where they get be updated on the process all the way along through, that would stand for that one meaningful gift rather than lots of little ones.
Yes.
So I'd love to know, Rebecca, if you've kind of seen, because you had a business before this, which might not necessarily have been strictly a gifting business, but have you seen the way that people are gifting or what they're buying for others and for themselves change over the years?
Yes, I think so. I mean, there's a huge amount of pleasure to be found in finding the perfect gift for someone that you love. And that's been around since the beginning of time. But I think what we're seeing more and more is gifting as a token of appreciation. An obvious example is gifts for teachers, which when I was growing up really wasn't a thing. But you see that more and more now, a gift for the teacher at the end of the year or at Christmas time, something like that. And just a small token of appreciation. And I think that's kind of entering the way that we exchange. It's another form of exchange, really, in the way that we gift now.
No, that's really true. And I think also when we talk about teachers' gifts, they're becoming more and more evolved in terms of, it's not, kind of a little tube of bath soap or things that, I think that when I was a kid, that was the sort of thing that we used to give our teachers. Now they're quite elaborate, depending, which is great because teachers do an amazing job. So don't get me wrong there. But that's really interesting. I don't know if either of you have anything you would like to add to that in terms of what you've seen, if there have been any changes in the way that people are gifting or the sorts of things. Gabriella, also?
I think also it's probably quite, especially from a jewellery point of view, you can't really talk about gifting and not mention, I can't remember if I have mentioned it yet, personalisation. That is obviously something which has been around for a while, but there is something quite nice about engraving something onto, if it's a gold disc or something like that, engraving something special. And in recent years, we've been experimenting a lot more with that, and with technology as well. That's been able to help. So you can now have laser engravers, so you can actually engrave someone's handwriting onto a piece of jewellery. Or if you're talking about a baby, you can do a fingerprint or little things like that, which actually do make a big difference. And again, it all goes back to creating the memory around a piece, and it makes it a lot more special as well.
Also, you mentioned packaging. I would love you to tell us a little bit more from the Natural Nuance perspective, how you navigate the packaging space, and definitely Rebecca and Gabriella will go to you after that. But I know this is always a challenge, and particularly when you are mindful around the sustainability of a brand. How have you navigated that also?
Yeah, first of all, we didn't navigate at all. I couldn't decide. At the beginning, we said, oh God, everything we find is too much. But now, and we also had some ideas around, how could you create a new type of packaging? Could you make packaging that can be repurposed, etc.? And we had to just admit to ourselves that the old box, it's really the best. Boxes are great. What we do though is that we deliver boxes that are sturdy enough to be used as boxes for other purposes, but you can also use them as a travel box, which is important because leather bags easily get squeezed in the trunk, and that's a shame, you know, if if you bought a bag and then you want to travel. But it's also material that is light enough so that when we send it, it doesn't add a lot of weight to the package. So that's how we sold it for ourselves. There are some other creative ways, I think, coming from Japan, for example. It's a wrapping method. You can take a scarf and you can wrap a package, for example. And I think we wouldn't necessarily go down that route, because when we select materials, we want them to be as sustainable as possible, and even a recycled cloth, you know, we want to be sure that it comes from a good space. But for people at home, you know, if you really wanted to avoid all the paper for Christmas, you could take an old cloth that is from your student time or so, and have your local what do you say, the people at Zoo, have them make a cloth for you, and you can package and wrap like that, and then you could make fun of it, you know, in the family. You could see if it returns again. It's just an idea. Yeah.
I do have a pile of fabrics. They are Christmas printed, so I did buy them in the beginning, but I've used them for several years in a row to wrap gifts and then fold them up and put them away. I mean, mostly they're gifts that are given to people who live in my house, so then at least I can keep them. But yeah, it is quite fun, because it's always heartbreaking, isn't it, when you after all the unwrapping's been done and you gather up these bags and bags of paper and then put them in the recycling bin. But it always does seem, and then you reach a point where your bin's overflowing and you kind of think, oh, is this necessary?
Just don't take grandma's cloth then. You have to take the other ones.
or anyone's Hermes scarf or anything like that.
Yes. The one you got last year.
Yeah, if you were the recipient. Rebecca, I'd love you to share your experience of corporate gifting, because you've been very successful in this space, and I think this is something that a lot of businesses could learn from. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is during the pandemic, actually. We're kind of exploring different channels, quite frankly, to try and stay afloat as a business. And we wanted to see if we could work with organizations or small businesses to see if we could somehow put together really beautiful gift bags for events that they were doing, if they were commemorating something special at work, or some kind of a reward scheme, that kind of thing. And I think this must be about 2 years ago now, but we did our first event for a group of 40 women in a very particular business sector. And at the end of the evening, they had their goodie bag. And I think the thing is with fragrance, of course, it can be so personal. So you have to make a selection that's relatively giftable. And by that, I mean quite neutral. So nothing perhaps too strong, more on the kind of oils and candles side rather than full bottles of eau de parfum. But we work with a company up in Sheffield who make these really beautiful printed cotton bags, quick turnaround, and they can kind of create a bespoke bag for that company with the branding, etc. So when you put all that together, it's actually quite a nice package. Yeah, we can work with all sorts of different quantities. And like I say, the turnaround is quite good if it's sort of a relatively last minute thing. So yeah, it's been a really, I've met some really interesting women doing that. And, you know, it's a part of the business that I really enjoy.
Amazing. I was looking around because I have some of your bags here, but they're not in my office. They must be in the other office. So I was going to pull one up while you were chatting, but they really are lovely.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, the corporate gifting is often for product-based businesses a very unknown landscape, and people don't know really where to start. But I think if you've done it with fragrance, and as you said, that's a tricky thing to gift, it does need to be relatively neutral. I think that's really incredible, and I would encourage anyone, and hopefully if there's anyone listening, and I hope you don't mind, Rebecca, if they would like to pick your brain and find out a little more, that they can get in touch with you about that. I would love to now talk about the role of women in gifting, because also I know that you have some really interesting thoughts around it. And it's brilliant, because I always go to the panelists before these events and I ask for some questions and things they would like to talk about. And this was actually a point that also raised. And I'm really glad you did, because I hadn't thought about it. So I would love for all of us to have a bit of a chat about this. But to start with you, what are your thoughts on the role of women when it comes to gifting, and has that changed?
So what I noticed when I started the business was that a lot of our clients, they will just buy bags for themselves. But then some clients would say, yes, I'll talk to my husband and I will make the wish for Christmas or for my birthday. And at the beginning, I had an issue with that, because the way I am, I like to, those kind of items I would choose myself, although my husband has got a good taste. But the bag for me was something so personal that I was very astonished at the beginning how many women actually will, place a wish and be very specific with their husbands. And then, of course, I realized that, yes, on the one hand, it's a way of actually helping your husband to buy you the right things so that you get what you wish for. On the other hand, I realized that there is a bit of a deeper issue there. There are actually quite a number of women that don't have a salary. And even though some of the women might have a salary, they will still, when it comes to more expensive items, ask their husbands. So that just raised a little thought with me. I said, is it really like that? Is this kind of also a sign in society, what can you buy for yourself and what can you not buy for yourself? And so it made me think a bit. So then next year we will actually come out with a men's collection. And I said, yes, then, the women can give back to the men if they want to buy for their husbands. But that was a little bit the thing that made me think, that there is somehow a traditional role when it comes to gifting between men and women. That was what I was thinking about it.
Gabriella, have you seen the same? Because I should imagine in your industry, it historically might have been men coming to you and having pieces commissioned for their partners, but has that shifted?
Yes, I think it has. I think when it comes to in my industry, in my sector, you have two of the main gifts. One of which would be an engagement ring, and I've certainly noticed with that the initial contact may be with the man coming to me first. And some of them are bold and go ahead and do it on their own, and I work with them to decide what we're going to make. But in a few cases, what I've actually started doing is working with them to choose one main stone, and then we set it in a very plain band, and then actually the couple come back together, and they work, actually really interesting, they work together to choose with me what they'd like to commission, which actually I really enjoy, because one, it's quite interesting because it means that both parties have input into something which, from an engagement ring point of view, you will be wearing every day. Yeah. And also I think it helps the couple to get to know each other better as well. It's quite it's quite fun sometimes, especially at the beginning when I first maybe speak to the man. And obviously before we go into choosing anything, I always ask, tend to meet I have a cabinet at the Stafford Hotel, so we tend to meet over either a cup of tea or a glass of wine there, and I asked them what their fiance to be maybe like, and then it's really interesting them meeting, and I think it's very personal jewellery. So it is, from that point of view, the engagement rings I've definitely noticed it's either more of a collaboration. From general bespoke pieces, I work a lot with women, which I love. and it is, and they tend to be pieces bought either just because, or in many cases, it is to commemorate something. And I think that's always been the case since I started, actually.
No, that's really interesting, because if you think about it, and it's the same as what you were saying also, when somebody having a handbag bought on behalf of them, all three of you have products that are very personal. And if you think about an engagement ring, which is a high cost purchase, the idea that somebody would choose something on behalf of you, unless they knew you really well, or you'd sown lots of hints around what it was that you exactly wanted. It's kind of a bizarre concept if you think about it, that someone would buy something like that on your behalf. Rebecca, what's your view? Do you still get people buying fragrances, for their partners, or is it largely individuals coming to you buying fragrances for themselves?
Oh, I would say the majority for themselves, but at certain times of the year. So, for example, Valentine's Day, also Mothering Sunday, we really push our gift cards. So these can be sent in the post, printed out, or they can be sent digitally. And they're quite a good solution, really, if you think that the person that you want to buy for would engage with the brand and love their products, but you're not quite sure what they would want to buy for themselves. So, yeah, that's been quite interesting. But going back to the whole kind of like the gender roles in terms of gifting. So we've recently started working with a new e-commerce platform that is a wellness website for men. So sort of like Cult Beauty, but very much focused on kind of more masculine market products. Because a few of our fragrances are gender neutral, so they kind of fit into that category. And what's interesting is that I think I was told up to something like 25% of their customers are female on that site. So gifting perhaps, or buying on behalf of someone. And I find that quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think because it is tricky when, and I can understand that if you have, a male significant other in your life, to find gifts. I think men are typically quite hard to buy for. I'm not even sure why, and I think maybe that's changing in many ways. That the kind of wants of men have increased in terms of, skincare products, hair care products. That it's far more acceptable now for men to be interested in buying those sorts of things for themselves. But it's great that there are platforms. And also, you were saying you've got a men's range coming out next year. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we're we have in our 23 collection, in the autumn collection, we will have a first product for men. And it's very interesting when you speak to men about, because I've had some interviews to see, to position it a bit, and the approach of men buying for themselves, they definitely are prepared to pay a lot more than women. It's a very different take on in the purchasing process, and we haven't gone through the process in real life yet, but I've seen the reactions. So it's going to be very interesting for us it's a whole new mentality to try to understand sales-wise as well, and I look forward to it. Yes.
Well, because we've got a few minutes left, I'd love to give each of you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about, out of your respective product ranges, what your gift suggestion would be for someone who might be looking for a bit of inspiration pre-Christmas. Rebecca, can I start with you?
Gosh, well, our candles are always a really big hit at this time of year. Cecile candle is one of our best sellers. And I'd say in addition to that, we do a discovery set. So we have these 2 ml vials here, and we have a discovery set of the 4 eau de parfum, and they come in a really beautiful presentation bag, included with a voucher to get £10 off a full bottle purchase if you decide you like one. So that's quite a neat little present to give someone, I think, because it sort of taps into their curiosity, but it doesn't kind of dictate too much about their own fragrance tastes.
Brilliant. And I can definitely endorse your candles, the Cecile candles. We use them to scent all of our events. They're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And they are so long lasting. In fact, because I've used the same pair of candles, I think, for about 5 events now, and they're not even halfway through. So I highly recommend them. And every time I light them, everybody asks where they're from. And it's conversations, because actually somebody told me the other day that whenever they come to my house, they love how my house smells. And so it was completely kind of unsolicited feedback, but it's because of your beautiful candles. So I highly recommend it. Gabriella, what should people be coming to you for? What is your kind of top pick for gifting this Christmas?
So for me, I notice around Christmas, it tends to be tend to work with people on pendants. So things which don't necessarily need sizing. So for example, a ring is slightly more difficult. So I work a lot with pendants and earrings. But because we're now coming up to the 1st of December, because a lot of my pieces are made to order, if someone were to come to me now, one of the things that I do, which I really love to do, is we choose a stone together. So it's not from an engagement ring point of view, but it could be an aquamarine or an amethyst. And again, going back to the packaging, I have specific packaging for a stone. And then in the new year, I then work with whoever's been given it to make it into a piece that they would like, which is always very special.
I love that. I really love that idea. So essentially, how would the process work? Would they, if they were London based or UK based, they could meet you at the Stafford Hotel or somewhere, and would you be able to show them a variety of stones?
Yes. Yes. So I bring along a selection. They can then choose. We can discuss what maybe someone may have had in their head or what has been heavily hinted. And we go from there, and then it's, as I said, it's then put in a perspex. I have it was specially made for me perspex box, which I put them in, and then into my packaging, which just looks really, really nice.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Also, over to you.
Yeah, I have a little example here.
Oh, good.
This is our little cute. This is for girls. We have a lot of mums buying them for their daughters when they get the first key. So you can have some coins in the back. And we have the same in black. And then we have keychains and smaller objects we make because when we produce, we use the whole material. So it's not pressed material. It's actually just depending on the cut of the leather. So so they all look a bit different. So depending, and it's very cute presents actually, the small ones. And of course the package. It's very, very, I don't know if you can see. It's you can see our logo here, but it's probably not so. It's very slick. Yeah.
But, I can see how you could travel with that as well, because it's kind of narrow enough that it wouldn't take up too much space in your suitcase.
Yeah, but it's a good material because it's light, and you hardly see our logo. We like to be subtle, but so if you want to make a big boom out of the package, you can always do it yourself. We will deliver a slick format, and then yes.
And also, does it tend to happen that people would buy one of those from you kind of as a lead-in product, and then they would love the concept and come back and buy bigger bags and bags in all different colors? Is that how?
Yes, definitely, to see the quality, to touch the leather. But we also have the way around. So we also, some of our customers start with the bigger bags, and then they go down the range, let's say. Yes. So it happens both ways.
So my last question is, because I'm always curious to know this, what is the best gift or the most memorable gift you've each been given? I can see Rebecca thinking. Gabriella, do you have one in the meantime?
I've had I think it's interesting. It's very difficult to choose one because there are some which maybe I would have been given when I was little, and they hold special memories for me. Some which could be a book which someone I've mentioned and has found for me. I think for the purposes of this, I should probably say an eternity ring. which was my great-grandmother's. So I don't know if you can see it, but it's here. And it was made by my goldsmith, his grandfather, for my great-grandmother. And when I started Annellino, it was given to my mother. And when I started Annellino, my mother gave it to me so that I could wear it. And it's actually the inspiration for the name, because Annellino in Italian means little ring. And my great-grandmother was a little person. She had a very little ring. So I think, yes, that's definitely something I hold very close to me. And I wear it every day as well.
Oh, you gave me goosebumps. Beautiful. Also, do you have a special gift or most memorable gift?
I have 3. It's a bit the same as with Gabriella. I have from my aunt, I got a little rabbit this height when it was my name. She had made it by hand, my name on it. So that was very cute, and I still have it. So then my son and my husband once went into the perfumery, or they went into the store, and one of the bigger brands actually offer also personalization. So they choose a lipstick with a mirror, and my son wrote his name on there, or he wrote Mama on the perfume as well. And every time I go out, he's like, "Did you use the right lipstick?" so it's there for. I said, "No, I don't want to use it because I want to keep it forever." Yes. And the third gift is something I got when my son was born. So yes.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. And Rebecca, did you think of one?
I mean, I think my husband would be quite cheesed off if I didn't say my engagement ring. It's very beautiful, but, you know, totally agreeing with Gabriella. Jewellery is really in a league of its own when it comes to gifting. It's so personal, so much meaning and thought that goes into that, like you say, a very high cost purchase. But in terms of other gifts, you know, things that if somebody has bought me a book, introduced me to an author that I hadn't read before, and all of a sudden I go on this pathway of just thinking, okay, I need to read everything that they've written. Or another gift that springs to mind is this, my mum bought me an armchair. This is about 20 years ago now. And it's pretty beaten up now, but it's just, it's come with me everywhere. And I love it. It was the first piece of sort of grown up furniture I had. And yeah, I love it. I haven't seen anything similar since she gave it to me, and it's very special.
Oh, amazing. And does Juno like lying on that as well?
It's basically her chair.
Juno is Rebecca's dog. He's very, very cute. But I thought of that because my dog loves the armchair in our house that everybody fights over, and he's very much claimed it as his chair. So it's yeah, I kind of, as you were describing it, I had pictures of her on there as well. Well, everyone, I am really, really grateful for your time. We reached time. And for anyone who's been listening on LinkedIn, if you came halfway through, you can still go back to the beginning and watch the whole chat. This will also be available on our website as well in a couple of days. But to all of you, I'm incredibly grateful for your time and your insights. I'm always blown away during these conversations because everyone who comes shares so much of themselves. And I know that sometimes I ask kind of probing questions, but I love learning these things about you. And I'm sure that everybody who's listening has felt the same. So thank you very, very much. And I wish you all a really Merry Christmas. I don't know if we're allowed to do that yet because it's not the 1st of December yet. But yeah, I hope that it's in these last few weeks in the run up to Christmas that you get some great orders in and lots of support. And if anyone has been listening and wants to get in touch with you, they can comment on the post or in the comments on this live. But equally, all of you are on LinkedIn and people can direct message you as well as on Instagram. And if you're unsure of how to get in touch with Rebecca or Gabriella, get in touch with me and I'll connect you. So thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Have a wonderful afternoon and I hope to see you soon. I think Rebecca, am I seeing you at the lunch on Friday? No,
sadly, I'm doing a fair in Chelsea. It's the final fair of the year. Sadly, I wish I was coming.
Well, we're going to have a lot more things. We're already in planning for next year. So I'm sure that I'll be seeing soon. And also I have to come and visit you, or you're going to have to come and visit us.
I have to come to London soon. It's been far too long. Yes.
Well, sending much love to all of you, and I will see you and speak to you soon. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.